Hey, what is going on, guys? I'm finally back with another video. It's been a while. Some rough patches in life, but all is good. The video is going to be basically about the results of my AMCAS application cycle for medical school in the United States, and just kind of updating the channel a little bit at the same time. So I graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Biology from Emory University this past May 9th of 2022. And fortunately, I'll be starting medical school on August 8th this year as well. So fortunately, the application cycle went quite well. And I have some positive results to share with this community here. So to start off, I just kind of want to recap the schools that I applied to. So for this past 2021-2022 AMCAS application cycle, I ended up applying to 27 all MD schools within the US. And then to start, I just want to give like an overall result so that people aren't like waiting till the end. Essentially, I applied to 27 schools, so that's sending 27 primary applications. I can explain that later, but it's like the 15 activity descriptions, your personal statement, MCAT score, GPA, plus other demographic information as well. So all of that was sent to 27 schools within the US. And then I completed all of their respective secondary applications, so I made 27 secondary applications as well. Then after that, I was fortunate enough to receive 15 interview invites, of which I attended all 15 interviews. So that was kind of like a hectic semester for me. Kind of most of the fall semester, this past fall semester, and kind of leaking a little bit into the spring semester, this spring 2022 as well, doing interviews. And then out of those 15 interviews, I was fortunate enough, and I'm very thankful for this, I got 6 acceptances, 6 waitlist positions, and 3 rejections, for a total of like the 15 interviews that I attended. Now, I also forgot to mention, I guess, where did the other 12 go? So for those other 12, I did complete their secondary applications. The 12 that I did not get interview invites for. And then I kind of just got rejections pre-interview on a rolling basis throughout the fall and into the spring semester as well. And at this point, today's date is June 2nd. I have results for all 27, so that's like essentially like the general scheme of how things went for me. But now I'm going to delve deeper into the specific schools that I applied to, where I interviewed, and where I got accepted, and also just sharing where I'll be attending in the fall. Now, let's talk about the specific school list I made for this application cycle. So I'm just going to go down through it. I applied to Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai in New York City, to Sidney Kimmel Medical College at Thomas Jefferson in Philly, Northwestern University in Chicago, Feinberg, NYU also in New York City, Johns Hopkins, Baltimore, Keck School of Medicine at USC, FIU down in Miami, Tufts University in Boston, Albert Einstein, also Bronx, NYC, Renaissance School of Medicine at Stony Brook University in Stony Brook, Long Island, also New York State, University of Chicago, Pritzker, Chicago, right? Wash U in St. Louis, Stanford in Palo Alto, Hofstra University, also in New York State. It's in like close between Queens and Long Island, kind of mostly in Queens, and Hempstead, I think. Columbia University, also in Manhattan in New York. Harvard Medical School in Boston as well. UMiami, UCLA, Case Western Reserve in Ohio, UNC Chapel Hill, UCSF in San Francisco, Boston University, Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Weill Cornell, also in Manhattan, New York, Emory University, alma mater, Duke University, and Vanderbilt University. So that's like the total 27 schools that I sent primaries and secondaries to. Now let me tell you about where I interviewed at. So before that, I kind of wanted to talk about a little bit regarding how I made that list. So at first, when I made the list, my advisors back at Emory were like, yeah, it's full of brand names, like these huge names in academia. You need to kind of tone it down a little bit. And obviously, I think that was like a very important piece of advice for me, because obviously, like, right, you want to aim for those big schools if that's what you're interested in. For me, it was mostly a monetary decision. They have the biggest endowments, so they're able to probably provide the biggest scholarships, which was my biggest determinant as to where to apply for medical school. But I also had to apply to schools that, realistically I had a better chance at getting into. So after that initial piece of advice, I kind of added schools that were more in-state for me. Well, the situation for me is kind of weird because I'm a U.S. citizen, Colombian dual citizen. I live in Colombia. I studied in Atlanta, but I really don't have a residency state. However, in my junior year, I was able to claim residency in New York State, where I do have family, so it was easier to like register to vote, get a driver's license and whatnot, which are like the two main prerequisites to establish residency in a state. But yeah, essentially those were my factors in determining this list of schools that I applied to. All right, so now that we went through that, I'll tell you about the 15 places that I interviewed at. So I interviewed at Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai. I also interviewed at Northwestern University in Chicago, at NYU Grossman in Manhattan. Then I also interviewed at Johns Hopkins. Let me see. Albert Einstein was another place that I interviewed at, also in New York City. Renaissance School of Medicine, so Stony Brook Medical College. U Chicago, also interviewed at. WashU in St. Louis, interviewed at. Hofstra University in New York State. Columbia University in New York. Then UC San Francisco in San Francisco. Boston University. Weill Cornell Medicine. Duke University School of Medicine as well, and Vanderbilt. So those were the 15 schools that I fortunately received and interviewed at, and had the opportunity to kind of tell my story a little more. I could delve deeper into the interviews for any specific school if people want to leave them in the comments. Obviously, there's disclosures to like revealing the types of questions that were asked, but I can definitely share like the general scheme of things. I think there's a lot of stigma behind interviews, and they're painted as like something that can be really stressful, and don't get me wrong, they really are. But I think after going through like that many interviews, I realized that the people that are interviewing you really want to just get to know you. There's not many like trick questions and stuff. I think the trickiest it can get is with MMIs, multiple mini interviews, where you're giving like moral, ethical dilemmas and stuff like that. So I think that's the trickiest it can get. But with the one-on-one interviews, the idea is just to have a normal conversation with someone. And if you have basic human empathy and social skills, it's it's a pleasure to carry that out and kind of have that opportunity to tell your story and to have those people kind of realize the applicant that you are, and to have that as an aid in getting you into that medical school. So honestly, the interviews are a great opportunity for you to kind of show who you are beyond what is told by the AMCAS primary and secondary applications. So I was just very grateful for all of those opportunities, for all the wonderful people I met, honestly, regardless of the outcome. But yeah, now that I told you where I interviewed at, let me also share the final results as to where I got admitted, waitlisted, and rejected at. Post-interview, I guess. Alright, so let's talk about the acceptances, waitlists, and rejections post-interview. So I was accepted at Northwestern in Chicago, Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai. I was also accepted to Stony Brook, Long Island, Hofstra, New York State as well, UC San Francisco, and Duke University School of Medicine. So those were my 6 acceptances that I was fortunate enough to receive, and I'm very thankful for all these people that interviewed me and the people that in the admissions committee decided to give me a chance at a career in medicine. Now, the wait lists, I'll tell you a little bit about that. So those are other 6 schools that I interviewed at. Albert Einstein waitlisted me. U Chicago waitlisted me. WashU waitlisted me. Boston University also waitlisted me, while Cornell waitlist, and then Vanderbilt University also was a waitlist. So, yeah, honestly, I think with regards to the interviews, it's very hard to tell whether you're gonna get waitlisted, or just full on rejected. Because sometimes, like in the interviews that I thought went really poorly, you end up getting in, and then the ones where you're like, yeah, I'll definitely get in, you're rejected or waitlisted. So at the end of the day, even though you put in your best effort and you tell your story in the best way possible, all of this is still being evaluated by humans, and so it's very subjective in nature. So there's really not much you can do to control the outcome. The only things you can do is just present yourself in the best way possible and have the ethos and on all the background to really present yourself as a good applicant. And then finally, the 3 places that I got rejected post-interview at were NYU Grossman in Manhattan, Johns Hopkins, let me see, I'm missing one more, and that was Columbia University. So those are my 3 rejections post-interview. And then out of those 3, the only one that was an actual MMI was NYU Grossman. That had an actual MMI, because Johns Hopkins and Columbia were regular interviews. But yeah, that was like essentially that full-on outcome from those 15 interviews. Alright, so now to wrap up things, I just want to share where I'll be attending medical school, and that is Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai in New York City. Why? Well, first of all, I'm extremely happy with my decision. Mount Sinai, again, it's a medical school that grew out of a hospital, so their clinical expertise is just unmatched. And for me, that was like a huge determinant, because I want to become a really good clinician in the future and have really good clinical skills. Since ideally, I think I want to like teach in the wards and incorporate teaching and the clinical work in academic medicine. But also Mount Sinai just like offered that diversity that I was looking for in like training to become a physician in New York City, where I can really put to use my Spanish. That was also something that I really look forward to. My dad also really was very happy about Mount Sinai, so I also do that to honor him. I think just Mount Sinai's financial opportunities were also the best for me in terms of scholarships and the amount of loans that I had to take out long term. So I'm just overall very happy and very excited to start school there in August. So yeah, just to wrap up the video, I just hope you enjoyed this video and hope you can just gain some insight into what an application cycle can look like for a student. At least my experience as an Emory grad, as a dual citizen, kind of thing, where I had my high school and like early schooling years in a different country, and I'm like moving on to the US to pursue this medical career. So I just hope this can provide some background for people that are in similar situations, and just leave in the comments down below any ideas that you have for me, and just in other videos that I could make regarding this medical school application cycle. Maybe I could post a workshop about how to write the personal statement, how to write the activity descriptions, and just overall like tips and tricks that could make life easier for other applicants, which is the whole point of this channel. And the whole point is, well, first of all, I also want to kind of have a record of these things for myself, but I also want to be able to share this with the community and to kind of give back to other people in similar situations. So just to wrap up the video, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.